I'm wearing a mask, so my face is kind of green and muddy looking, right? There is a new kind of woman that is on the rise, right? We know that we women finally have our sovereignty, right? After a long road of immense tolerance, right? As the men kind of, it was a free for all, right? They did whatever they wanted to do to whoever they wanted to do, all these wars and these aggressions and my territory, no, my territory, right? My gold, and then killing each other for all the gold, for all the God, and for all the glory they can possibly have, right? And all their intoxications and infatuations and their lust and all their kind of demand to build, right? And we were just women watching, like, okay, go you, right? While they do their little chariot races, their gladiator races and fighting, and we just kind of stood back and we just like, okay, do you, right? Do you? But now we women are on the rise, right? We got our sovereignty back. We can look to Lady Liberty as a symbol for the sovereignty of women and the leadership of women and the empowerment of women and the creativity of women. I see Lady Liberty representing the creative mind of humanity, right? And how that creative mind of humanity wants to be unlocked, it wants to be unblocked, and it wants to be used to help us, right? To help us make more constructive decisions, right? That are not based on discrimination and religious prosecution and we call a hierarchical intolerance, I like to say, right? Or hierarchical aggression, right? So we women know that we can have our own job, right? We can live by ourselves. Not everywhere on this world, right? In many places on the world, women are still bound to the man, right? And arranged marriages and these kinds of things. But I live in the United States of America. So, in my region of the world and other regions around the world, we women have the sovereignty to be able to go to school, right? To be able to have a career that is our choosing, right? To be able to marry who we desire, right? To be able to have children in the comforts of our own culture without the demands of a sort of fatherhead kind of dictating how we are to raise our children, right? And this is all new. This is all new to us as women. Just my generation, my mother's generation, really, we're starting to see this sovereignty of women, because before that, women were like property, the man's property. Women could not go to education was very much discouraged and withheld, and as women, particular jobs we could not have, right? The pay was completely imbalanced, right? So it took us a lot of tolerance, right? A lot of tolerance and a lot of sort of dedication to get where we are right now. And many places around the world are still kind of, women are still kind of, okay, we gotta keep going, right? We gotta keep going. But overall, on this planet, we are going to see sovereignty for women, right? Because it's a demand. Like Mother Gaia demands that women have sovereignty, because the creative mind of the people is what we need. And the creative mind of the people is very much led by women, right? Because the creative mind represents the matriarchal domain, right? The patriarchal domain has his own sort of, his skill and his service to human in, his contribution, right? And the patriarchal sort of contribution is like math and science and technology and structure and government and organization of even organized religion and organization in the form of city-states, in the form of buildings and sort of architectural design and engineering in the form of roadways, irrigation, plumbing, right? Agriculture, these kinds of things. But the matriarchal domain is everything about the creative mind, which has to do with the culture of the culture, artistry, health, and wellness of the people, right? Emotional well-being, psychological well-being, right? Everything that has to do within, right? The patriarchal is everything without, right? Get a job, be credible, get your merit, right? Get your pride, right? Right? Have a status quo, right? Make sure that people, look at you a certain way. Make sure your reputation's in check, right? We think of father and son. We think of that sort of conversation as, boy, you got to get strong. You got to get a career that's going to make you a man, right? People respect you, right? You want to be respected in the external world. But during that sort of father-son kind of conversation, a lot of the internal, like how to be inside yourself, was completely like, that's not my territory, right? As a man, like, I don't know what that's about. I don't know how to do that. What is that? Who knows, right? So we've come to a period where we have so many skyscrapers, we have planes, we have cars, we have technology, but if we are to keep up with this demand of all of this things we have, right? Skyscrapers and buildings and cars and technology, and we have written, language, and we have, right, literature, and we have all these kinds of great achievement. But if we are to keep up with it, we need to have more of an expanded mind, right? Because the ways of our patriarchal Piscean age, where we repress our feelings, right? We don't know how to reparent the mind, the trauma, we don't know how to heal it, right? We all have this kind of widespread I'm not good enough, or this shame, or we all have this widespread emotional pain. And that's something the patriarchal domain just simply doesn't have the tool. It has the hammer and the nail, right? But it doesn't have that tool for emotional well-being, for psychological well-being, right? So a lot of the self-psychology, the self-hypnosis, the meditation, the yogic science, the healing modalities, the healing arts, healing science, it's everything about the matriarchal domain. When it comes to Chinese medicine or Chinese herbalism, or when it comes to Vedic meditation, or Vedic modalities, right? That's all matriarchal domain. So what's happening for us women is we're on the rise, right? And the new kind of woman that's coming forward is going to be highly creative. And the partnership she's going to be having with men is not going to be about, I need a man because in the view of my family, I am lesser as a woman unless I have a man of a particular status, or I need a man because I need him to take care of me, right? Because as a woman, I'm unsafe, right? Because where I'm at in my sort of geographic region, right? Women are unsafe unless they have a man, right? Like kind of like a father figure type of partner, right? Or I need a man because it is my duty as a woman to bear children, right? These are sort of ideologies all around this world. And also I need a man because I cannot have a career, right? So I cannot educate myself the way that I need to be educated to survive. So I need a man, because he will provide me this sort of education and this career that I need to basically be sustained in life, right? In society, right? So a lot of this relationship woman has with man is being deconstructed as women join in community with women, right? Which in United States of America, that was considered witchcraft, right? That was considered some sort of, seance and some voodoo stuff, right? Like spells, and kind of, considered like people, trying to hypnotize people and deceive people. It was considered very, very dark and evil, right? And we know that there are, all kinds of, you can use your skill of alchemy on either side of the board, right? You talk about the side of, on nobility, and the side of, we call it like sexuality, which can be used in a way of like manipulation and power game, and, kind of get me what I want, that kind of thing. So, alchemy can be on either side of the game, right? For nobility, which is what I'm talking about, and sexuality, which is kind of like people using sex to get what they want, to get the money, or, get the game, and create all kinds of seductions and sort of mind games and all that kind of stuff, right? Which is, there's some things, right, on this planet that kind of go in that way. But the sort of the woman identity, as she really develops her creative mind through a community of women that are really, they're working on nobility, right? And nobility is about like a woman's character and a woman's self-love and a woman's ability to create businesses and follow through on projects and to have these fine sort of endeavors, and just to have this artistry about her that is very prestigious, right? She has a very sort of prestigious energy about her because she has a creative mind. And that's what really makes a woman prestigious, is she has a creative mind that's really imaginative, that's really expansive, higher intelligence, such as intuition, be able to pay attention, to concentrate, to have a sort of meditative awareness, right? A self-psychology. All of this is what makes a woman prestigious, and also what makes a woman in the eyes of society very, very helpful, right? And when we as women are emotionally attached to men, and we're like, I need this man because or whatever that is, like to fill in the void, or like just to be with somebody, or to be with somebody, just have kids with somebody, we're beginning to realize as women, having kids won't make us feel better about ourselves. Having a man won't make us feel better about ourselves. And a lot of women have all of that. They have they're the housewife with the man that has the money, and then they have the beautiful kids, and it's a beautiful life. But as women, Mother Gaia is demanding more of us than just the fulfilling of the American dream, right? The wealthy husband, the nice home, the children, right? It's beautiful, but as women, we represent more than that. We represent the matriarchal domain. And what that is more tribal. We as women are meant to be in community, right? When we think of the tribes around this planet, right? Even Native American, right? Women have their children, they love their children, right? And they love the other women and the other men in the community, right? But women in this sort of tribal rhythm were very much very involved in the community, and they were very much involved in the culture and artistry of the tribe, right? So women represented the creative mind, right? And a lot of us women, we isolate ourselves. I've seen this in the whole American dream. We isolate ourselves from other women, right? When we have our kids and family, we just kind of, it just becomes about us and our family, right? But in tribal times, no. It's very much like orcas. Like a child of a woman was the child of all, right? You could see the aunt of the child, the cousins of the new baby, were all sort of contributing, all being very helpful. But as we know, sort of having children right now is like very hasty, right? Going to the hospital, it's like, a lot of us women are, have C-sections because, our hips just can't make it, right? Or the doctor can't have, 20 women pregnant on the full moon, or having labor on the full moon, because if you live in a big city, that's way too many women, right? Because, babies like to be born on cosmic events, right? So if you have 20 babies being born on a auspicious cosmic event, right? Because they want to grab that energy, and there's only maybe like 4 doctors at that time that's going on. There's just not enough. There's not enough doctors for all these women, right? So we having the C-sections, and it's just a hasty thing. It's like, just pull them out, these kinds of things, like just get the kids out, right? Where in the tribal time, it was very much like a ritual. It was very much like a ceremony. And we very much lost touch with that as women when it comes to the whole practice of giving birth and going through labor, right? We can see it as it was almost like a journey. But now it's just very hasty, like just kind of, you push the baby out and then you're just immediately brought into like another room or something like that, right? For a lot of us as women, because the population is high and it's increasing, right? And that's why we have these ghost cities, because supposedly some governments think that all of a sudden we're just going to be 60,000 more people overnight. So you need to have a place for all these people, right? Or I don't know what the agenda is, right? So the identity of the woman is really going to be about the creative mind and her community and her involvement in the arts, right? So, and that's wonderful, right? We can share that with our children and our husband. But the relationship woman has with man in this sort of new age, we say, is really about collaboration, because women actually have more energy than men, right? And that's just kind of, we have more energy than men, right? So we naturally have more energy than men, and we also have a lot of we have a sort of a great creative destiny that we kind of lost touch with. And that great sort of creative destiny we have as women, when we're not in trauma, when we've healed the trauma and we're not so caught and stuck in our trauma, is that our creative destiny is very much about the fine arts, right? And in the fine arts, again, we have fine arts in many forms, like creative writing, poetry, dance, painting, sculpting. There's all kinds of fine arts, but there's even more, right? And it's us, for us women, to kind of dive in and discover that. So when we talk about this moving forward into the future, right, where our technology, in our movies is like AI, robotic, sort of cleaning our clothes for us, right, kind of thing, right? We can kind of project ourselves out and dream of that and have that, but a lot of us don't want that, because it takes away the humanness, it takes away the groundedness, it takes away the being connected to nature and being reliant on nature, instead of superficial, artificial connections that don't bring us to the earth, right? That kind of bring us outside of ourselves, right? Outside of our responsibility, outside of our nobility, outside of our sort of duty to the earth, right? It makes us weaker, actually. It makes us weaker, right? Weaker when it comes to our contact with Mother Earth. So when it comes to women, right, it is mainly about the creative mind, because us as women, we have been programmed by this patriarch and his ego, his lusting. I always see the patriarch like some Roman dude sitting on his bench with the women with her breasts exposed, feeding him grapes, and he's just like, and she's just feeding him grapes. He's just like, here you go, and then there's all these women, and the men are like, oh, all these women, these naked women. I'm like, oh, ooh la la, that kind of thing. And the men think they can have all of them, right? Men have been programmed to kind of have that sort of that or whatever that is, right? And women, we've been programmed to really view our worth as an external thing, right? As in the shape of our eyes, right? A man would look at us and see the shape of our eyes, and just instinctually, he would be like, she's the woman that will have my children, because the sort of shaping of the eyes in his sort of programming of the woman's aesthetics is like, she's it, right? Or the sort of the largeness of the hips would be like, she's the one, right? So a lot of men they're more about the aesthetics, they're more instinctually driven by the sort of the appearance of the woman, the smell of the woman, because they're more physical, right? They're more physical. They're more, even if you look at cats, like male cats, like they can smell a female cat and heat, right? They don't even know what she looks like. They're just like, and they find the cat, because instinctually they're just driven by a more like physical, sensual desire, right? While women, we're a little different. We're more about the inside, right? So we look at a man and we're like, I see into your eyes, and I see into you, your depth, right? And man's like, whoa, what is that? Oh, right? So a lot of men, they don't really begin to step into that sort of the balance between the ecstatics and in between the emotional fulfillment, right? They have the sensual fulfillment that they have in their early 20s, and then when they get in their 30s, they want the sensual fulfillment as well as the emotional fulfillment, right? And as for women, we're kind of reversed. Like, we want the emotional fulfillment when we're young because we're so poetic and energetic, and like we're just all that kind of energy, high energy. And then when we mature, we get more into the sensual fulfillment, right? When we've matured, like our body has matured, right? We're usually, like they say, women in their prime when they're like in their 30s, means sexual prime, and men are in their sexual prime when they're like 15 to 25 or something like that, right? So it's quite interesting. That's a kind of interesting kind of thing that goes on. So with the creative mind of women and this new sort of identity that's arising, right? Because we're deconstructing a lot of these programs that I've mentioned about women and our, the servant of the man and the sex slave and these kinds of things. She must do what he asks and follow his rule, right? Kind of thing. And then women become very authoritative to their children because they have this sort of authoritative fatherhead on top of them, right? Or kind of over, constantly watching them, right? So with this creative mind, this artistry of women that we're enhancing and refining in our community of women, where we get to discuss and we get to share and we get to care and we get to include each other, right? And we get to really help each other become aware and to manifest, more creativity and opportunity for themselves, right? And that's really what a tribe is. When we look at in any sort of man would agree, right? And sort of when we look at the tribe, really what makes up the tribe is the women in it. Because the women, they have their little sort of like groups that they have together. And that really is what makes the tribe very, very prosperous. Because when the women, again, the whole saying, when the women are happy, it's like the whole tribe is happy because the women, they represent the sort of creative ingenuity and the sort of creative wealth. And in the tribal times, it really is the creative wealth of the tribe that kind of puts them in a position of being very accomplished, right? Right? So with this kind of current day and age that we're in, all around this planet, we're seeing it, but we're just seeing different variations because uh, we're all in different phases of this transition, right? Some of us are still heavy in the sort of women are oppressed and confined, seen and not heard. And there are other regions where women have some sort of rules, or not rules, law, some sort of privileges, and then others are withheld. And we still see many women not getting education and these kinds of things. We're all in different sort of phases, but overall, regardless, we're all going to get there, right? Either some of us women in certain regions are going to get there now, some of us maybe a decade later, some of us maybe 3 decades later. But regardless, we're going to see women having their sovereignty. And some men are going to be 100%. Some men are going to be like, I don't know, some men are going to be like totally against it, like total resistance to it, right? And that's just how it is. But regardless, Mother Gaia is demanding that women, that demanding more of women than just the American dream, right? Because this planet does need a sort of a richer culture and a richer artistry in the way that we take care of our well-being and the way that we take care of our mental state, right? And the way that we relate to ourselves and relate to others, right? And that's just something the American dream, it doesn't, it's not about that, right? It's not about women really developing their creative mind and really discovering their own inner matriarch, right? And really becoming educated in the healing science and the healing arts, right? Right? So, it's like, and I feel with men are going to be very supportive of women who, are educating themselves on like, self psychology and self hypnosis or meditation or Kundalini yoga or these, again, the healing science. Men are going to be supportive because that is the sort of duty of women at this time, right? Because we can give these tools. Right now, it's not just money, we're giving money, because that's very patriarchal, that all kids need is just money or something, right? Money or just unconditional love. There needs to be this sort of balance, right? So it's more so the nobility that's given to the child is more so it's given through the women. It's given through the woman, the nobility of the child, right? And the sort of higher intelligence of the child and the higher creativity of the child is directly given from the woman, and the amount of creativity that she is allowing into her life. Right? So you'll see the husband, the kids is not really going to fill up the void, because as women we know, like we're so energetic, and be we want to really be accomplished in the healing arts or the healing science, right? We want to be accomplished as women, right? Accomplished as in our creativity is lucrative, right? Because in the times of not so long ago, right, creativity wasn't, as we know, it wasn't really, the arts, right, music and painting, and it wasn't really seen as something of relevance or important to the livelihood of people, right? But now we're understanding that yes, there's a sort of innovativeness, and there's sort of an inventiveness that kind of ignites within young people, right? And we need new ideas, we need new choices, right? And new choices don't just come out of our ass, right? As much as we would love new choices to just fall out of our ass, really new choices, it sort of demands that we move and think and behave in a new way. But that moving and thinking and behaving in new ways, it needs a tool. It needs like a modality. It needs we call a healing science to it, right? Because really we would love to make new choices. Everybody would love to have a new habit, new behavior that is more efficient and more prosperous. But a lot of people don't do it because they don't have the tool, or they don't have a sort of healing science that they really go into that actually that gets them there, right? Right? Because it's one thing to just say it, than to actually have the backup, meaning you have the sort of practice that is getting you there. Right? We always talk about everything on this planet when it comes to sort of reinvention of you or your money or your relationships or whatever it is. There's always a practice to it. Right? There's always a practice to creativity. There's always a practice to prosperity. There's always a practice to being skillful or talented. Right? And everything about the practice of being intuitive, being inventive, being emotionally balanced, being psychologically clean and clear, right? Everything about the healing science of that's all about the matriarch, all about. So as women start to really kind of come into their womanhood, because we haven't really been in our womanhood, we've been supporting the manshood, but we have neglected our womanhood. We have neglected our natural rhythm and really coming to the fullness of our rhythm. Because yes, we're here to have kids and raise them to be, to have their own sort of creative niche and have a really strong creative mind that they can really, they can be accomplished, right? And, also with our husband as well. But really in the sort of womanhood of who we are, it's more than that. It's really feeling accomplished in your artistry as a woman, right? And whatever that is, There's so many things to that. And when we feel really accomplished in our artistry as a woman, we tend to feel more emotionally balanced. We tend to be more mentally strong. We tend to feel more physically vital. And we tend to overall we tend to really be leaders, more so leaders, and confident and feeling secure and not so shaky and so unnerved and so uneasy and so mute and so, and just so kind of just, so feeling incapable, right? Or feeling low, right? A lot of women feel very low, like they have low self-worth, right? And what really gets us to that place where we can attract even a high caliber mate, right? Or the life that we want, it really, as women, is leveling up in the creative mind. It really is becoming accomplished in our artistry, right? A lot of women, we just focus so much on the man, like, give me a man, like, give me some kids, because I just don't know what else to do with my life, right? I don't want to just do this job or just do that. Women, we represent the spiritual realm. You dang bet we're meant to be on a pilgrimage within ourselves. You bet, yeah, we're not just to be waiting around at a job for some guy to come and save us, or some, have some kids that, we can just, call that a life. I mean, that's beautiful if you want to do that thing. That's, do you. But the accomplishment of the artistry is what really gives a woman a radiance, right? When she's in her nobility. And a woman's nobility is different from a man. A man's nobility has everything to do with him out in the world, him getting a reputation, him being credible, and him, being a master builder. That is kind of his, nobility, right? We call the Saturn. When a man is in his Saturn, meaning he's disciplined, he's gonna feels like he has a high status in who he is as a man, right? That's kind of like his sense of accomplishment. But us as women, we represent Jupiter, right? I say, men and women have their study, different studies, different teachings, right? When it comes to the contribution and service to, people, right? And we represent Jupiter. So what that means is we represent the sort of expansion of awareness. We represent the sort of being in, a futurist, because Jupiter is a futurist, right? We represent the connection to spirituality and divinity, and the evolution of perception and perspective, and the awareness of how we can be more constructive, and how we can implement these tools, right? This wisdom we all have as women to better feed our mind the right nutrients and the right sort of thought forms that are going to give us more fulfillment within our creativity, and less trauma, and the sort of stuckness and stagnancy and poorness that we have in the mind, right? So as women are sort of, right, when we feel really magnetic, and when we feel really radiant, and when we glow as women, is really when we are accomplished in our artistry, when we know that the nobility that we are is well educated in, like, the healing science and the healing arts. Because really, a wise woman is what we love about women, right? That's why we love about women. Like, she's a wise woman. Any man, you hear the jazz songs, but the jazz men, right? The African American men, like, they look at the women, and she may be real personality, but he's like, I love that woman because she's wise woman. Like, she'll come down on you, but she is a wise woman. And it's almost like I revere her, right? When you hear the jazz songs, and from men who have, you can see it, that they're very noble in their sort of reputation, right? Because they really stand for sort of creating a environment of safety among the people, right? That's a noble man. He makes people feel safe. He's creating a safe environment, and he's clearing out the things that are not safe about the environment, right? And then you can see the way they, the saying about women, it's like like wise woman. Nobody wants really, men don't really want a woman who, I mean, they say they want her to be in and just give him the sex when he wants it, and, just, they're lost in translation kind of stuff, or a woman who, is like, beck and call, or, she's low self-worth, and she just give him whatever he wants, so, he says, come, give me blow me, and she's like, okay, and that kind of thing. Men, they say, like, I love that giddy girl, right, that just gives me whatever I want, and I don't even have to work for it. But deep down inside, men know, like, they know they're meant to work for it. Men are workers, like little worker bees. And do you see the queen bee? She's just sitting there chilling, like, I have all these men working for me, right? Right? You see the sort of the work, the queen, right? She's just kind of chilling, right? Because men know that they need to work. Men, like little bees, making their beehive that is so beautiful, right? Beautiful beehive. Those little male beehive, this beautiful. They know that they're really meant to work, and they don't really feel like a man if they don't work for a woman's love. They feel like they're a boy, right? And women, when we do that, when we just kind of like give him, like, we're beck and call kind of thing, and just, okay, whatever you want, just to be friends or friends with benefits, okay. Women were like, hell to the no, right? Because we know that as a woman, our focus is not on the sort of the kind of relationship dilemma that takes a lot of our time. Really, our focus as women is our accomplishment and our artistry, right? Accomplishment in artistry, and the sort of, further education in artistry, in the healing science, the healing arts, right? Because as women, especially in the matriarchal Egypt, before, any patriarchal kind of timeline began, we were very much high priestesses. We were extremely educated as women. We were not just so educated, like, we were educated in all fields. Like, we were educated in history, like, history, we're educated in spirituality, we're educated in self-psychology, we're educated in even geometry and mathematics. We were really thoroughly educated as women, because the creative mind of the woman is really the kind of vessel for messages to come in, right? For messages and innovation, invention, and visions and trances, and kind of sort of blueprints would come in through the psyche of the woman. Blueprints on, all kinds of things, all kinds of visionary things. Like when you think of Nikola Tesla and his book, right, with sketches, all of these sketches Nikola Tesla received were like big ideas that were way out of his time. We're talking about maybe 300-400 years in the future, really. But they came through his psyche. They came through that creative mind that was very open. So women are meant to have an open Akashic record, right? They're meant to have this open psychic energy, right? Because women are super energetic, and they have this powerhouse that if it's going, it can go, and it can really go, right? Very, very, it can make a lot of change, right? A lot of change, which I see change as the same thing as it can bring a lot of beauty to earth, right? And when there's more beauty on earth, and a lot more beauty, people tend to naturally be just more well, right? When you go and there's just trash everywhere, it doesn't make you feel well. It actually supports this inner sickness, right? When you go out and you see beautiful, sort of, you go in the botanical gardens, you feel just, you're more well. You just, not more well, you just feel better. You feel better, right? Naturally, the whole beauty, it does something to you, and you naturally just feel better about yourself. But when you go in an area like trash yard, the disorder and the clutter, it kind of puts you in this place of like not feeling too well, right? So change in the view of Jupiter is about, let us bring more beauty to this planet, right? Let us bring more beauty to our mind. Let us bring beautiful thoughts. Let us bring beautiful emotions, right? Let us focus on the beauty. And the only way, the path to focusing on beautiful thoughts and beautiful feelings and your beautiful body is really developing the creative mind. Because when your creative mind is really, really strong, right, in your thoughts, in your feelings, and just in the way you relate to yourself, you just tend to be a lot more constructive with your time, and you tend to be a lot more corrective in the way that when you do go through periods of down or low, you know how to really, you know how to handle it, you know how to take it, and you know how to reform it, you know, because you have that creative mind, right? You become a better problem solver rather than a problem dweller or a problem sort of stagnation, right? So let me see. Yes, with the women, right? The more that we do feel like creative in our mind, the more that we will be attracting a partner who, again, who is a man. Because again, boys, you know, they don't really want that because they're not ready for that. So they want the beck and call kind of thing, right? Or whatever. Not all boys, right? Because a lot of boys have the woman in their aura already at like age 5, because the mother or the grandmother or some sort of woman in their family is super powerful, super strong in the little boy's energy. So she really sets him up to be very, very a very supportive boy to, you know, women, right? Very, very respectful, right? But overall, with the relationship man and women have, it is more so like collaboration rather than filling in each other's voids and trying to escape, you know, trying to, you know, just bored, or I don't know what some people do, right? Pay the bills together. It's more about the collaboration where a man, literally a man's status is higher with the woman around him, not lower or sort of nowhere, right? And because of her artistry is so like, it's so beautiful that he's like, oh my god, like she's the prize because she's so beautiful. And what, you know, just her creative mind is just so beautiful. He's looking at her creative mind beyond her big breasts or her big thighs, and he's like, whoa, right? Because in the sort of being sensual and sexual with his partner who has the big thighs and, you know, the beautiful sort of hips and the beautiful breasts and the beautiful eyes, it's like it becomes an experience that is, it is very special to him, because he knows underneath the eyes, underneath, inside the hips, inside the breasts, there's a woman who is very extraordinary to him and a woman that he dearly respects. And that is makes sex a lot more special to a man than she's got the big thighs, the big boobs and the eyes, but then when I don't want to go into her, like into her, you know, her, I don't want to go into her, right, in her emotions and her thoughts, because I'm not really, I don't really feel really, like, I just don't really feel captivated by what I see or what I feel, right? So us as women, we get very competitive with other women, and we're all been programmed to kind of do that, right? To kind of be competitive and get intimidated by women and put women down and belittle each other, right? We've all been programmed to do that because the more that we're competitive and like men with each other, the more that we are going to we're not going to fulfill our womanhood. We're not gonna succeed in our womanhood. We're not gonna pass, right? And for some reason there are sort of programs on this planet that don't want women to pass. They don't want women to really come into their womanhood. They want women to be kind of at each other, intimidated and, you know, insecure and all these kinds of things. Because when women are kind of doing these things and all with each other and intimidated and belittling and shaming each other and blaming each other and hating each other, nothing gets done. Nothing gets done. It's kind of just nothing gets done, right? And that's the kind of like negative side of the programmings on life, the agendas, right? Nothing gets done as long as women are doing that with each other, right? All it does is just creates an agitation. It creates a sort of just this low feeling, this depression. It creates this discord, this complete disconnect. And that does nothing for a woman's creative mind, the great disconnect, right? It just keeps a woman just trapped or stagnant in her own I'm not good enough shame and emotional pain. And as long as we're in that sort of, we're trapped in that place, right, as a woman, we'll never be able to really be accomplished in our artistry, because accomplishment in the artistry as a woman is really about being bold. It's about being expressive. It's about being fearless. It's about being sovereign, right? It's about being able to tolerate, take it, as Yogi Bhajan said, to tolerate and take it, and to not be phased, but to just keep doing your fashion. Make your fashion, right? Women, make your fashion, and let your fashion be the most amazing thing about you. Either your fashion is your mind, your fashion is your clothes, the fashion is your music, your art, whatever it is that you do as a woman. Your fashion is your whatever it is. Your fashion. Let your fashion be so special and extraordinary, and so like you've got dedicated so much energy to it that it becomes this total like portal of like, when I'm around this woman and the fashion she is, right? I'm just like, I'm brought to another dimension, right? A dimension where like I'm just like feeling really, really good, right? And let that be the sort of the sort of focus of you as a woman, your fashion, right? As a woman, right? Because then when you really feel like that, okay, you give your focus to that, all these other little things about the competitions and the belittlements and the insecurities and the chat and all that kind of thing, it won't even touch you. It won't even affect you, because you as a woman, your fashion is everything to you. And your fashion you put on your kids. You're like, hey, Noah, you're going to wear my fashion, right? And he's like, oh, no, right? He's like, okay, right? Let your fashion, like, your fashion is so, like, captivating that even your husband's wearing your fashion. Like, you made fashion that's customized for him, right? And for your kids. And then all of a sudden your whole family is just like, the kids and the husband are all wearing this fashion that's made by you. And that's like, you look at your husband, you look at your kids, they're all wearing my fashion. Oh my God. Like, I feel so satisfied, right? And that is the sort of collaboration that women have with men, where like, men are like, okay, women, like, you want to make your fashion and do that thing, and you want to, make it better, or, I want to support you with that. Right? Because the more that you feel stylish in your artistry, right, as a woman, right, you feel more, you feel more excellent in your fashion, right, your fashion design, your creative mind. The more that you as a woman, you give more, pleasure to a man, and then you give, more sort of excellence to the children, right? You give more, right? You give more sort of wisdom, and you become like this sort of old soul that has this fashion that's just like so different and unique and special, right? And the sort of exchange, like, a woman gives to a man is very much they get to discover each other, right? They get to discover and they get to learn, and there's nothing more really in a partnership than to learn from each other, not to try to like get each other to understand, like, this is how I am and this is how you are, and we try to like force each other to to get us. And it's like that sort of learning, because really, even after 10 years, you really don't understand somebody. And that's why when you have more of this learning, like, you just want to learn, you're always in awe of each other, because when they change, or when you change and you think you understand, and then you realize I don't understand you, you're not like like agitated, or you feel like you feel weird. You're like, oh, I gotta learn something new, right? And then sex is learning something new. It's trying something new. It's becoming something new, and therefore that new sexual experience has a deeper intimacy or deeper closeness, because we as human beings and our learning of each other is actually, it's like evolving, and we may be evolving differently in our sort of path, but we have this kind of intention to discover the most about each other and to into like open each other up, right? When you know, it's like we're opening each other up, and that's kind of what this future of relationships will be about, in the way that you're opening each other up, right? And not just, you know, the sex, but also in many other forms, right? Through the play and through the kindredness, because I feel the friendship of it, a lot of future relationships, it's really the friendship of it that's going to be the kind of the it's going to be really encouraged in people's friend, you know, in their partnerships, because this quick sex stuff, this quick jumping into marriage after 2 months, people realizing like, why are we racing, why are we just jumping into things, like why is that actually doing anything for me? And people are like, no. So I feel like this quickness, eventually it will start to get very slow, and I feel it will get slow to the point where people will really want to experience like this sort of kindredness and this playfulness and this silliness and this friendship, right? This kind of courtship where you are not asking all these questions like on a speed date, or basically trying to force somebody to be your partner. It's going to be more of like a natural kind of unfolding and a natural opening that's going to be based off of two people who want to collaborate. They have something together that they want to create. They want to birth something. And it's not necessarily birthing babies. It's like the man and the woman, they both have gotten to a place in their life where they have something about them that is they want to develop, right? And that sort of collaboration with the other, it helps that. It helps them to develop that even further. So this is kind of about women and the woman kind of, you know, what women are becoming and will be becoming in the future, right? At different times, but depending on where you live, right? And the kind of relationship women will be having with men, and how that will really change the game. So I know I'm wearing a mask, so there's like mud all over my face, but this type of mask it makes my skin very smooth and very yeah, so it's kind of like, you know, it's like with a mask you got to get the download, right? You got, you know, even if your hair is, you just got to do it, right? So thank you.